What's going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and I do apologize in advance if my hair looks like a mess or the lighting looks terrible. I'm using natural light and I'm in desperate need of a haircut, and I also just got out of the shower because I literally just woke up. I even got a cup of coffee here. Grandma. I woke up and I checked my phone and I got like a big notification in Discord, and then I had a few on Twitter, and it's something really important, and this is a type of video that I don't really do because it is just one card, and y'all know that it's usually 2 or more cards is the rule for the things that I review. I have been trying to step out of the box a little bit and review some more though, but this one in particular is really important because this is the Boundless Open Land. So this is a spell card coming out in Cyberstorm Access that says it's a field spell, and if your opponent special summons a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Exceeds, and or Link monster, you can activate one of these effects, but you can only use each effect of this card's name once per turn. You can add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, or you can special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your hand. So ignoring the fact that this actually seems to be a pretty damn good card for branded decks overall, especially ones that aren't playing like the Despia Field Spell, because realistically, who's played the Despia Field Spell in the last bit of while, but this seems like the end of the Albaz lore. Yeah, that's kind of like huge. So it may seem a bit confusing because we did just get that big wave of the branded stuff, and it seems like Aluber actually ended up winning there, and like, you know, everyone's like in disarray and everything like that, but in this artwork, it looks like Albaz and Ecclesia finally got their happy ending, and you know, you got Kid over here, the MVP, who obviously made it all possible, and then thank God someone pointed this out to me. We got, like, it looks to be Farigit and Shurik down there. I was like actually about to have a meltdown on Twitter over not knowing what happened to the Tri-Brigades. And then of course you got like various Spriggans and everything down there, and I think we have like Theo and Adine, the Dogmaticas, as well. Unfortunately, does not look like Fleur. I believe Fleur is actually gone. Her body apparently was just possessed by Quem in order to take down Dissipator. But yeah, it all looks really happy here, but it's weird because in that last wave of branded stuff, you know, it looked like Aluber had won. However, when you look at this card, it actually makes you look at the other cards in a different light. Because, let's go back here. So, the Bestial Aluber, you know, he's sitting smug on a throne. It looks like he's won. He's got this crystal or whatever. And by having the name Fallen of Albaz, it looks like he got Albaz's powers. Well, everyone thought that meant like he killed Albaz or something, reabsorbed him, more likely. But it looks like he just managed to get his powers in general. And then also, apparently, this crystal is literally the crystal that allows Cartesia to be a tuner or something. I don't know. But it's like the only other artwork in which this crystal is featured in the branded lore, at least to everyone's knowledge. It might also be the crystal in Lubellian's head, I don't know. But then also going down, we have Fallen of Argyros, which was a bit confusing because it seems like a really weird card overall. However, it's actually, it makes a lot of sense now if you realize that Aluber actually lost, because so people have pointed out that this armor that the sprites are in, which obviously they probably just took it over because they were tired of being in only Kit's jacket, but it looks like the possessed Lubellian's armor, which actually would make sense, you know, if Lubellian lost, he's just like, that armor is just like a shell now, and so now it's being used as a host for the sprites. So Lubellian actually did lose, and this is just what's left of the armor. The Ice Shade Adrienne Ron was already a self-explanatory card. I mean, she's literally the only Ice Shade left, and she's trying to rebuild her home. She's kind of like a spin-off at this point. But also, I didn't mention this in the last video, but I really love the detail of that it looks like the Golgonda Serpent's head frozen in the background in ice, which, as we remember, was attached to Longwan, or Longwan was attached to like some weird centaur kind of thing. But yeah, this really was kind of self-explanatory. But then you have Guiding Quem, which Quem is, you know, obviously the first of the, I think it was like the Holy Spirit kind of things. I don't know. She was like one of the first worshippers of the church or something, or one of the first like deities of the church, something like that. And she kept like getting put in a new vessel and everything, and she became like, I don't know, she's really like complicated. But apparently she not only was the one that took over Cartesia, but also the one that took over the body of Fleur and her armor in order to help take down Dissipator before ending up just departing, I guess. I don't know. And then Branded Etude actually does not it look like to be ad libitum. Everyone confirmed that is ad libitum, not just from the hair and everything, but also from the outfit. But ad libitum and Aluber, you know, walking away triumphantly. It looks like they're just retreating into the shadows, either in defeat or to lie in wait, because according to this artwork, it looks like he's not really minding it too much. It looks like it might just be a minor setback for him, which could end up bringing us to the conclusion that this might not actually be the very end. This could very well just be like a little break, kind of like, what's it called? Not an etude, because that's etude over there, but like interlude. That's what it is. That's the word I'm looking for. It could be a brief interlude in the story. This could be, as some people said on Twitter, like the end of season 1, quote unquote, which that was a very chaotic season 1. And I don't know necessarily if I were to believe that, because this does look like it could potentially be the end of a season 1, because like I said, it looks like someone pointed out that they're in the Dogmatica ruins specifically, which is where, you know, the fights took place and everything. It looks like they're just sitting there and lying in wait, and they could be retreating back home to the Abyss, which it looks like Aluber is in this. So yeah, it could just be a brief pause. However, we actually have a good few loose ends wrapped up. Some people are like, oh, we have some that aren't like wrapped up or anything, but again, we have like the Ice Jade one, we have, it looks to be the Sprite one and everything, and the Therians, I'm pretty sure, are just a part of Sargus now, because remember that the Therians, apparently in their lore, whenever they beat each other, they would take their parts and add it to themselves, and, you know, Sargus beat Regulus, so it would make a lot of sense that that's not only why Sargus looks different, and also why it can search Regulus, but also why we don't see any more Therians in the artwork, because they're literally just absorbed into Sargus. And again, I was going to have a meltdown over the Tri-Brigades, but it looks like at least we have Farragut and Shurg here, obviously the most important ones that aren't Kit, because Kit's like on a whole different tier, but also it looks like they could be potentially somewhere in the back here, because there are some people in the back. I think that might actually be like Rugal or something, I don't know, if that isn't Theo, because, you know, again, Theo and Dean are pictured back here, I just don't remember exactly where. And apparently we have some other loose ends here and there, which I don't exactly know. Let me know in the comments what the loose ends are, because like, I feel like a lot of the stories, like the separate stories, have been wrapped up at least in some way, shape, or form. Like for the Sword Souls and everything, we know that apparently Moyi is dead and everything like that. And but everything else seems to be fine for the Sword Souls. Maybe, I mean, what was the actual most recent Sword Soul card now that I think about it? I forgot, they literally just got a card. Sword Soul of Blazing Awakening. Oh, okay, no, it was just Fleur because she is the Iris Sword Soul. But the Sword Souls, other than that, I feel like they're just chilling. Because I'm looking at Albaz on EDO Pro, like I'm looking to see literally every archetype that has something to do with Albaz, and honestly, it looks like we have at least some form of conclusion for every single archetype in the series of cards. But we also do have to think that we do not have the entirety of Cyberstorm Access revealed yet, surprisingly, so maybe they like revealed this a little too early, or like maybe we have like a few cards left or something like that. But other than that, guys, I really feel like this could be the end. And what does that say overall? Well, not only does it leave Konami room to make a new lore, because we have the Visas lore, but that doesn't feel like an actual like main set lore. Like that feels more of like like a true Draco lore, more than it feels like a World Legacy or Dual Terminal lore. Like, it feels kind of like a side thing, which is why it honestly, it feels like it's already ending. I feel like either this set is the last one, or one more after that is going to be the end. But it gives them room to make a new lore, because we haven't had a new lore since 2020, other than the Visas lore, which is like a side thing. And then before that, I think it was from 2017 maybe to 2020, 2019, 2020. That was the World Legacy lore, which ended up being such a mess at the end that I think, honestly, I couldn't even tell you the last few cards other than like Avita. But we had the World Legacy lore before this, and then we had the Hidden Arsenal lore and the Dual Terminal lore, and we've had a good few different lores. But not only does it mean that they can make a new lore, but it also means that the archetypes that are being supported by this lore could not see new support for a very long time. Because, like, think about it, like, a deck like World Chalice, you know, the very first World Legacy lore deck, hasn't seen support since, like, 2020. Like, which I think that was towards the end, yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was 2020 that it ended, right? Because 2020 is when this started. But, like, I think it was 2020, like, mid-2020, in which the lore for World Legacy ended. But their last piece of support was Ib, who is now banned, which is pretty sad, but they haven't gotten a new piece of support since then. However, you do have a deck like Crawler, though, which actually just recently got support earlier. I think it was in Power of the Elements, in which they got Crawler Soma. So it means that it can be possible for these archetypes to see future support. However, it is very unlikely for it to be as consistent as it was, or even like remotely consistent as it was during the lore's actual breakthrough. But you could potentially see support. It's just going to take forever for it to happen. which is really sad because some of these decks just still feel really incomplete, because Ice Jade, even with the newest support cards, which are, like, fantastic, don't get me wrong, it still feels very incomplete despite the lore of it being wrapped up, because the cards themselves are just terrible. And then you got, like, Spriggans, which, I mean, yes, Sargus is awesome, like, the newest Sargus is, like, actually a custom card, but, like, everything else, except for maybe Merrymaker, is terrible. And the field spell's also really good, but, like, your real only good target is, like, Merrymaker. I don't know, I feel like just some of the Albaz lore archetypes were just a little bit less loved than some of the other ones. You know, obviously, Despia and Sword Soul being super strong, as opposed to Ice Jade and Spriggans being just there. But yeah, it could be a good while before we end up seeing some new support for these archetypes, if this is the end, which, I don't know, I just find that really sad, especially because of how disappointed I am in Tri-Brigade Aurora. I feel like that card is just so underwhelming as a card, but I don't know, that's a story for a different time. But I think one of the saddest things potentially about this lore ending is just how important it was to the Yu-Gi-Oh community, because honestly, even with World Legacy, I have not seen a lore more cherished by the community than the Albaz Ecclesia lore, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense, because we have to remember that this is actually a period where a lot more people not only got back into the game, but got into the game, period. Because you gotta remember that there's people that they got into links, or they went into link format, and then they just dropped the game. Like, they just didn't want anything to do with it anymore. Because, you know, link summoning did ruin the game for a lot of people, which is pretty understandable, honestly. A lot of decks were rendered unplayable by Master Rule 4. So, you know, if you left during link format, honestly, I don't really blame you. But 2020 had a lot of people come back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because not only due to the pandemic, which hopefully I don't get demonetized for saying that. I don't think YouTube's gonna care at this point. But they came back into the game because they needed a hobby during that time, and also because of Master Rule 4 2020 revision, which of course is what allowed the Link monsters to be the main things that go in the extra monster zone, and Pendulum too, but Pendulum sucks. But everything else could be summoned freely, so a lot of people's pet decks were free again, and therefore they came back into the game. And of course, you know what else released in 2020? Rise of the Duelist, which released the Dogmatica archetype. But also, it was just such a big period of growth for the game in general, because people wanting to pick up a new hobby, or to just get into the game because they think it's really cool. And I think that's awesome, because honestly, I don't think the Yu-Gi-Oh community has been this booming in a good while. I feel like it was falling off for a little bit there, especially due to links and everything like that. But I feel like after 2020, the game just kept getting, like, more and more popular, and it's just so awesome to see. But it's just so bittersweet overall, seeing that this might be finally over, because of just how much it brought the community together. Because, you know, there was a lot of people trying to piece together the lore, and like, how does this artwork correlate with this artwork? Oh, what's Kit doing in this spin-off and everything? What does that have to do? How will this affect LeBron's legacy? And though we are finally getting the actual, like, reference sheets and everything that are giving us the official lore, we should only have, I believe, 1 or maybe 2 sheets left for that. It was just so much fun putting it all together as a community, and it was some of the coolest things I've seen in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments below, whether or not you think that this is the end of the series, if it's just an interlude, or if it's like, maybe, I don't know. Some people said it might be a flashback, which does make kind of sense, because they did ride off and sprint along with Kit, but it wouldn't make too much sense for everything else going on down here. But I don't know, let me know your opinion down in the comments below, because that is going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like, as well as put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you like this content and you want to see more like it, I am trying to break out of the box a little bit in terms of my content, then perhaps consider subscribing, because it supports the channel more than anything else, and it is absolutely free. Also, stay tuned for my really in-depth Bird Up breakdown that hopefully will be coming out by the end of the week or early next week. I'm putting a lot of work into it. It's going to be like 2.5 to 3 hours long. It's going to be like the length of a Marvel movie. That's going to be really, really big for the channel. And once again, thank you all so much for watching. This is Aurora, signing off.